have hello. We do have a very tight schedule today. We want to keep this to about an hour and 15 minutes or so. So, without further ado, I will hand you over to the resident coordinator, Nados Begele Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could you please come forward, fill up the space? I see that, our children, some of them, I don't know where they are. But the numbers are, instead of increasing, it's decreasing. I think UNFPA is doing its job, family planning maybe. But anyway, good afternoon. This is our regular town hall meeting with the entire UN staff. And this meeting, as promised, is being co-chaired by the future president of this Federation of Staff Association, or the current one, who is chairing the past day, right? Leading us to the Federation. I don't know, he would explain to us. But for me, he is my boss now. So he's next to me, just on my right-hand side. So we would be co-chairing. And the second thing is that we're looking at the, hello? Hello? It's coming back. Before going into our agenda item, I think I would give the floor to our landlord here, our host, the UNHCR, just to say welcome and also maybe make an announcement which he promised to do. So, I'll give the floor to him and then we'll go into our agenda items. If you don't mind, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Arsi. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's always a privilege to host such a big family. I will not take more time. There's a clip we would like to share with you of 2 minutes. On 18th of this month, the Lugulugu African Initiative will have a walk in Johannesburg. And we will request all the UN staff, private sectors, missions, ambassadors will be joining this, and we want to appeal to you as one family to join us, and we will share with you the clip that has taken place in Nairobi. One has been held in Nairobi, Dakar, and Johannesburg is the last one for this year. So my colleague from Nairobi will share this clip with us in a minute.
Hi everyone, my name is Amna. We're just buffering up the video. But as Adan has said, the Step for Safety Walk is on November 18th. It calls on everyone to come out to walk for families forced to flee. It's happening at the Walter Cicero Botanical Gardens, and it's a family event where there's a 2-kilometer walk, a 5-kilometer scenic hike, and a 10-kilometer
Did you know that
jog.
across our
So I'm going to show you 2 clips. One is the celebrities in South Africa who are helping with the call-out, and the second is a bit of the clip from the Kenya walk, which I hope you guys will all enjoy.
Did you know that across our African continent, over 24 million people,
Over 24 million people.
Over 24 million people have been forced to flee their homes.
They fled because of violence, persecution,
and conflict,
They didn't choose to leave their homes.
Work,
school,
way of life, to become refugees.
They left because they didn't have a choice.
They didn't have a choice.
They left because they didn't have a choice
They didn't have a choice.
Despite that, they show strength and resilience.
to fight against all the odds.
To survive against all odds.
To survive against all odds.
They have kept their human spirits alive to honor their journeys and stand in solidarity with them.
The Luku Luku campaign
Is organizing a Step for Safety walk.
And I'll be there.
I'll be there.
We'll be there.
Join me.
All proceeds from registering will go to support families forced to flee.
So now we're just going to show you a quick clip from Kenya. In Nairobi, 1,500 people came out. We think South Africa can bring up the numbers as well. And as Adan said, this is about one UN, one family. So we think that we'll call you guys out and hopefully have a great event.
We're just ready to get warmed up. With UNHCR last year, where we were very green and we didn't know what really was going on. In as much as we all hear about refugees and the struggles that they go through every day, we were lucky enough to have one of our very own from the station, Amina Abdi, who had the privilege to go to the Khartoum camp, came back to us, gave us the real story of what's going on ground, and ever since we haven't looked back. We've taken this up. We have a really strong CSR arm at Capital FM, and this is one of our major projects this year.
Take much more of your time, but feel free to register. It's lukuluku.org/step for safety. Adan will also be forwarding on an email to the UN community. We'll have it forwarded around the different agencies. And also, there's a Luku Luku Tribe Facebook page we encourage you to like, and really look forward to seeing all of you there. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is opening remarks by the RC, and then the next one will be on local salary survey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you all know me, so you know I don't need to be introduced. But I would really like, my co-chair to introduce himself, and then also, tackle the first part of the agenda, which is the local salary survey.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm not good with protocols, but there's a line that is liked in South Africa and now elsewhere, where you say you observe all protocols. So I think I'm going to do the same as well. Maybe just to quickly introduce myself. My name is Mpiwe Mabele. I was introduced in absentia in the last town hall, and I am part of the UN staff in South Africa. Now I would go beyond that and indicate my role in the agency I'm deployed in, but I don't think it is necessary at this point in time. But I am actually sitting here in my capacity as the convener of the task team for establishment of the Federation of United Nations Associations in South Africa. And I'm also the president of the Staff Union Committee in the ILO as an agency. I just want to start with a quick disclaimer before maybe I move to my remarks related to the local salary survey. I think the program director mentioned that we have time constraints, and I think we respect that, all of us. And the RC indicated that this is one of our regular meetings. Now I want to start by a disclaimer to say when it comes to staff-related issues, the time is not necessarily an issue. And when we have to discuss issues related to staff, we're going to have to make sure that an opportunity is provided. The issue of meeting being regular, it is regular, but I'm not sure of the content, whether it's going to be regular. Because there's one or two things that we would like to introduce on behalf of the staff. And this is something that we would like to be taken into consideration as we're moving forward. I think as the co-chair, I just want to quickly take us a little back. It's just a historical background in terms of how did we end up chairing, in case you come closer to someone and say, who is he? Those who came later. So I'll respond to all those questions. But I just want to start with July, August 2018. There was a dissatisfaction in terms of the local salary survey results, particularly the comprehensive one that was conducted in 2017. Then we moved to August. There were agency level dialogues, whether they happen in consultation with the heads of agency, but there were dialogues that were going on in terms of whether do we accept or do we reject the results. The same month, there was actually a conclusion to say, let us accept the results. However, let us challenge how we got into the results. And that was supported also by the staff associations and staff unions as a collective. Fast forward, September. There was communication that was issued pertaining to the results, indicating that the results have been concluded. This was September 2018. Fast forward, October 2018. With concerns raised by staff between September and October in terms of when are the results being applied or effected. And the communication in October was issued indicating the reasons for the delay. But I must be honest, there were concerns that were raised in terms of this communication. It was not seen as legitimate and results that are actually reasons that are of merit when it comes to why there's a delay in terms of the results. So, co-chair, this is where I actually, as I was walking here, I spoke to a number of staff, and I picked up about 14 feeling words as I was coming. And I thought I should share the feeling words that were shared by staff. There are people who said they are angry, people who said they are frustrated, people who said they are depressed, people who said they are doubtful, people who said they are disregarded. I felt it myself today. I have an example. People who said they feel undermined, disrespected. The list goes on and on and on. And when we look at these reflections, it indicated that there's something to be done and there's something to be addressed in terms of how the staff feels. Fast forward, 31 October 2018, the staff associations were forced to actually come together and hold a meeting, and I had to convene this meeting. This meeting was discussing the issue of results again, and it was agreed that in this meeting we need to get updated information in terms of what is happening with these results. Why are they not being applied? And in that meeting we agreed that we need to request a meeting with the resident coordinator, who had already issued a statement indicating that within a week from the 26th of October, she will hold a town hall, which we are holding today. Fast forward November, as in 5 November, we had a meeting with the RC, and in my view, and the view of people who participated from the staff associations, including Sudesh from UNICEF, we thought the meeting was progressive. We still believe the meeting was progressive, but we had 3 recommendations that we made. 1, in the town hall meeting, let us provide an update with regards to this FUNSA that is being established. 2, the bigger issue which we identify as a big elephant in the room, the local salary survey results. And then the 3rd one, an update on UN reform. The RC agreed with no hesitation. She then requested in the same meeting that if the convener, which is myself in this regard, can co-chair the meeting. We then agreed that we will co-chair the meeting on condition that there is new information that is provided to staff with regards to the local salary survey. Then the meeting, we waited. There were back and forth communication, which maybe some of you are aware, some of you may not be aware. Fast forward to today, this morning, at 9:50, I received an email from the RC indicating that Simpiwe, there are new developments when it comes to the results. So I would like to conclude my part by indicating that we agreed to co-chair because we feel that we do need space. We do need to make sure that staff, since individuals cannot come and sit on this table. I was told it was a high table, so I'm still trying to figure out what is high about it. So I would like to make sure that at least we are given an opportunity to communicate and air some of the emotions that staff would come and air with us. So I'm going to hand over to the co-chair, and I'll come back later in terms of the other remark that we now have in as far as the staff associations are concerned.
Thank you, co-chair, but I think, we have to go back in the lane of history and rectify or correct some of the information. And also so that, there is really harmony between staff members, because we, heads of agencies, we are also staff members. And as such, we are members of the staff association. So we have to understand that, okay? We are staff members of the organization. So there is no you and I, there is us. And that has to be clear to everybody. Second, it is within that spirit, and I would like to really insist on that. It wasn't at the request of the staff association or the task team that, we agreed to have a co-chairing agreement. It's not because of the problem of salary survey that we agreed to have a co-chairing agreement. It's because I felt that we need to chair these together. And in actual terms, from the very, very beginning, I said I would like to have the town hall meeting to be co-chaired so that, it's a family talking to each other. And I would like us to really have that family spirit and not, that, division of this and that. The whole thing about the federation, which I pushed, is because I find it to be a useful instrument of management. So that there is no conflict, there is no division, but we work together. And it's also in the spirit of a family that we in the management pushed for the salary survey, including reaching out to highest level when they say that this is not your problem, this is an independent body, which is the ICSC handling the salary survey. It's not a management thing. It's not a regional coordinator's affair. It's not heads of agencies affair. It is something that is done at the ICSC. We, even now for our salaries, we don't deal with that. They deal with that in a different system and mechanism, including your local committee that has been approved to follow that. So I need this misunderstanding to be clear before we proceed. And I would like really, again, in the spirit of family working together for one goal, I would like us to really avoid, this kind of, insinuation that there is a division. There should not be a division. There is no need for a division. We all work for the same goal. So with that in mind, if that is clear, then, and if you don't have any other additional comments to make, I would like us to move on to the to the first one, which is the conclusion, and I would really like to read exactly the message that has come from headquarters. But I would like staff to know there are things that I can share, there are things that I cannot share. If at all, there is one person that has been following up on this salary survey from the very beginning, is the resident coordinator. And that, I don't have any apology because I feel it and I'm committed to it and I did it. Not because I'm pushed to do it, but because I feel it's right to do. So, and luckily, after raising it to the highest authorities of the United Nations, who had to intervene at the level of the Secretary General's office, then we have now some kind of answer which has come, and I would like to read it to you. It says, "Dear Nardos, the salary scales should be promulgated tomorrow, and as has been explained, will be retroactive to the reference month in 2017. I have checked with the World Bank database for the CPI movement for 2018, though that has not been published as yet. Hence, we cannot proceed with the subsequent interim revision for 2018 as yet. With regards, Robert." This is the person that we have been dealing with, and apparently this is the person who had come to do a salary survey. And I would really like us, without putting blames and thoughts, to use this whole exercise as a learning exercise. Because yes, there has been a delay from headquarters, but certainly there was a delay from our part. And I'm sure you must have read the communication that has gone out in giving you details. And I think, when you are given responsibility in dealing with matters that affect the lives of staff members in general, the lesson I draw is that we shouldn't take it lightly. We should be responsible and respond in time and really to the utmost, with utmost care and responsibility. So I would stop there, and I think I would open up for any comments from the floor, if you don't mind, right?
All right, the floor is open now. Who wants to be the first? I know there are a lot of people with questions, that the challenge is always being the first to ask. Anybody? Sure.
My question is with regards to the email that has just been read out. What I'd like to know is the salary scale that has been referred to. Does this then mean whatever the comprehensive salary survey, the results that came out, is that what is then being applied? That's my first question. My second question is that if World Bank hasn't done their CPI, is there any indication then when that would be done so that the interim salary survey can start? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take another question. If not, then we will over to you. Thank you.
Maybe it's a very quick question as well. I think when you look at the communication that has just been read, you have to look at it from a technical side of things in terms of the promulgation that is going to take place today. And that is not the beginning and the end of what is supposed to happen. There are other steps that are following this promulgation, which is supposed to happen in New York. So is there a way, maybe if there could be a technical kind of outline and brief to indicate that when they have done their promulgation, then it comes to the country and it still has to go to agencies. All that kind of roadmap, I think it's something that would be helpful for staff.
We take another question. Okay, if not, in the meantime, we'll ask.
I think you need to your
Okay, in answer to your question, the results that are being implemented are the final results that we were dissatisfied with. I think as an LSSC, we met on several occasions, and on the 29th of September, we agreed that we accept them. They cannot be changed because of the methodology that was used. The methodology can't be changed at last minute. So we said we accept them. However, what we did require was a different way forward, hence the CPIX for the interim audit. I mean, for the interim survey. So those are the results that are going to be implemented. I can't remember the second part of the question.
My second question was, because the CPI has not been, World Bank hasn't done the CPI, is there any indication when that would be done so that we can know when we can look forward to an interim salary survey?
Okay. As at today, we hadn't gotten any of that information. There was an email that was sent out with a request, one for exactly what Simpiwe has mentioned, what the steps are, the next steps are, so we can share that with staff. And then as well, when the CPIX will be then implemented, and when that will start, when we can start the interim. What I, on behalf of the LSSC chair who's not here, what I do promise to do is then follow up on that and send that request for some guidelines and timelines as to when World Bank will release their CPI. I think we can do our homework on that part as well.
So what are the results? And does this apply to all staff, only national staff, only G staff? And also, will those people that sit on the committee be held accountable for putting the rest of us and the rest of our lives on hold for the remainder of the year?
Okay. The results were the ones that were shared, where the N staff was a minus figure. I can't quite remember what it was. I don't know the numbers off. But with the G staff, there was a plus 3.6 that was then adjusted for tax to I think 3.5 or 3.4. Those are the figures that's what is going to be implemented. With regards accountability of the people who are on the LSSC, we cannot hold them accountable. What we can do and what we must do going forward is that when we select or elect people to handle such matters, we need to be sure that one, we give them adequate time to do that. We allow them the space and time to do that. But two, that there are people who really want to do it and understand what it means for the lives of people. And I think what was said by the resident coordinator is that this should be a lesson or a learning for all of us, that when we are given responsibilities, it isn't just about us being given a responsibility. It's something that ricochets to everybody, even our own lives. So there needs to be clear accountability when we now take on roles and responsibilities. It's also very clear that we need to better understand what it means for us to sit on certain bodies. I think for the longest time, it's just been something that we do for the sake of doing. But we really need to understand what it means and do it recognizing that it is for the good of the body of UN, all UN staff. I hope that temporarily satisfies.
Turn off the mic.
Thank you for that response. I just wanted to find out, going forward, can agencies now nominate new members to the local salary survey so that we can at least elect people that we know will be able to do the job for us?
I don't want to go back and raise tensions about this whole process, But I feel that in as much as maybe there were delays in the local salary survey board or members acting, even the way that it was done in New York, it was not done properly. It was like, I felt like this person who was salary survey was not responsive enough. And I feel like even here, the follow-up was not actually effective as well. There should be a timeline, surely. It cannot be a year, definitely. It cannot be a year.
One more question?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hear that the salary survey is going to be adjusted to the CPI, Consumer Price Index. And we have a very long discussion in UNDP Staff Association considering the difference between core inflation and headline inflation. So I want to know which one are we going to use, because in South Africa, we know staff are exposed to energy prices, which have been going up, also electricity prices. So we have advocated for actually headline inflation to be used to adjust salary.
Also, I think that the way the salary survey is being conducted doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense that international staff and G staff get increases where we live in the same country. And we are all experiencing the price hike. Some of us actually travel even longer than many of the people sitting here. I think it doesn't make sense that national staff get a minus. We actually get, that means we're getting nothing in essence. Whereas G staff and everybody else seems to get an increase, but we all live in the same country with the same expenses, if not even more. It absolutely makes no sense at all. Perhaps we also need to have a comprehensive survey like other staff receive, which must detail every single expense that we have to put in and that we procure or spend, and maybe then they'll actually see what we have to contend with.
I'll take one more question before we go to the next round of questions. Any hands? No?
Okay, I'm going to answer those questions that I can, but I'm waiting for all questions. Oh, I must speak up. Okay. With regards to the election of staff members who will be on the LSSC, I think it is important that that is looked at and revised now. And I think there's been an agreement that this will happen. So there will be a process. I'm not too sure what the steps are at this point as OMT chair, but I think this will be discussed and there will be a clear guidance on the way forward with new elections. So that has been discussed and it is going to be in place. With regards to the timelines, about how long it took and who should be accountable, etc. I really can't speak to it, but what I can say is that we can point the finger everywhere, and really, in all honesty, yes, it did take long, but South Africa was notified in 2016 that there'll be a survey in 2017. What happened between November 2016 and August 2017 when things started picking up and activity was happening on LSSC on the survey? I cannot say because at the time I wasn't within the UN. However, what I do know is that on our part, as South Africa, we didn't push hard enough. We could have pushed at that time. So by the time that gentleman from ICSC came to South Africa, we didn't have all the comparators that we needed to have had. And we had plenty months before to prepare to get those comparators. Something stopped us from getting the comparators on time. So he himself was frustrated that he came. At the time he said he was going to come, which was November 2017, but didn't find us fully ready. So yes, even subsequent to that, he too could be held to blame for the type of responses he was giving and not being fast enough. But I think we need to acknowledge that both parties have to accept some degree of responsibility for where we're at. But it doesn't really help to look back. What helps is to just pick up the lessons from that and ensure that going forward we do things differently and are cognizant of what any delay that we make means to the livelihood of all the staff. With regards CPI, I am not 100% sure which one will be used. I think this is something we can clarify. I will make sure that gets clarified and gets sent out to everyone in the Staff Association. It will be shared with CPA to share out. And then your question on the methodology and why it's different, etc. You know, yesterday on another matter, I had a meeting. I was privileged to be part of a meeting with the RC. And one word she used is disruptor. And she said, South Africa must be a disruptor in this instance. We must disrupt the way things have been done to date. But that means we must be active and we must push for some change and articulate why that change, because the climate here, the country here is very different from many other countries. Living in South Africa is no different to living in New York. Yet the standards applied are very different. So we need to use this opportunity as a staff union to start questioning and pushing for changes in these things. And we need to do this very strongly. And that's where all our participation is very important. We cannot just leave it to a few. We really need to participate in what's happening in our UN family for our own good.
I will give it to the RC to respond to.
I think on this subject matter there are, from my side, at least 3 or 4 points that I would like us to consider. One is to be sober and to really look at, analyze the whole process and document where things went wrong. You know, normally in the field offices, when we do that, it's not only in our interest, but it's also in the interest of the organization. So I think, you know, we have to really be very professional in analyzing the situation, where we were and what happened. And if there are areas where we need to improve at our level, then, you know, we have to really make sure that we take the necessary action in correcting, you know, areas for improvement, so that we are better for next time. But when there are certain things, like I do share what has been said by Zineb and Lesholo, it's very difficult for people to understand South Africa. South Africa is a very complex country. South Africa is a country, I always say, where there are 2 countries. And unfortunately, the staff, even from our perspective, the staff that we have really do not live the life of a middle income, but, you know, we live like a real, you know, developing country. People do not understand. It's not only that, but it doesn't cater, you know, there's no segmented markets for the various classes. It's just one market for all of us. It doesn't happen in my country. In my country, when you want to go cheap, you can have a place to go cheap. When you want to go rich, there is a place, you know, to go rich. But here, the possibilities are very limited. And I understand and I feel what you're saying. In terms of public transport, I feel also the anxiety with the escalating price of, you know, petrol. Because we, you know, our local staff members are forced to drive. Public transport is very limited. And therefore all these makes it to be different from the real other countries where there is a coexistence, I mean there is the pooling together, so, you know, the transportation is really, so, you know, there are so many variations, there are so many uniqueness of South Africa. And I think this really needs us to highlight this uniqueness of South Africa clearly, so that people understand, ICSC understands what kind of structure there is and what kind of situation the country and the staff face here. But we also need to really clearly have a strategy, and I depend on the OMT in leading this process of identifying areas for improvement and saying, okay, this is what we are going to do with a timeline responsibility, so that we correct ourselves and we don't wait until, another, ICSC issue comes. We do it now so that we are already, on the right path. The third and very important thing is that we have to really still push on what is it now. Okay, fine, it's promulgated, but then for the interim, what is it that we are doing? So we have to reflect. Not just posing a question, but we have to come out also with a solution. Scenario 1 is this, scenario 2 is this, and this is what we recommend. And I think we have to be a little bit proactive and also do our homework, where we will pose the question, but also have some solutions to the problem. So I think this is the OMT can work with the staff association weekly and rectify that. On the committee, I agree totally. We have learned, from our mistakes, and we need, and I salute you for raising this, and we need to have a different committee that is committed, dedicated, understands, and need be also have the training. I mean, if you ask me the process of ICSC and how they do this thing, I don't have any answer because I don't have any clue. So you need to be trained also. You need to understand what the system is and how to follow the system and make sure that we get what we want to get out of it. So I agree, and we can look into that together with the OMT, and we can ask them, and we can say that the staff wants to change the committee, how do we go and proceed, and submit names, and we will work with the UA country team in terms of proposing the right name for this purpose. So this is what I suggest as a way forward. Let me give the floor to my co-chair, if he has anything to say.
Thank you very much. I can't repeat what the RC has said, but I think from the staff side, we fully agree that there were mistakes in the process, and there were lessons that we identified, and I agree with the documentation of these lessons so that we can be able to improve moving forward. The commitment that we have made as the task team in the absence of the Federation is we will ensure that there is participation and meaningful participation of staff associations in the LSSC. If you look at the current structure of the LSSC, there are only 2 names next to them that are written staff associations, but the country has 8 registered staff associations. So those are some of the gaps that are there. And you wonder how staff then is represented in their issues when it comes to the LSSC. I do want to conclude by making a proposal, and this is something that RC will work with your office and the relevant structures. Today we received this communication, which is a development in as far as the local salary survey results are concerned. But it is just one milestone. Our experience, all of us here, has taught us that some of these processes can take long, especially when offices are being moved from one country to the other. Who knows that after today, this promulgation, that is going to take another 3 months or 4 months for the next step to be effective. And that is why I was raising the issue of a roadmap. So we will work together with OMT and the LSSC to make sure that staff is aware. Because as a layman myself, if I am one of the people who is supposed to receive this retroactive salary, the question I will ask, when is it going to come into my account? Yes. And that is the question that people would want to know. And if we can't answer it here, where are we going to answer it? So I want to commit that we will work together with the RC
and the relevant structures to make sure that that information is provided timelessly. And on that note, so I'd like maybe to propose that we close the issue of this local salary survey, and then we move to the next item of the agenda.
Thank you. So, I'd like really us to conclude by assigning responsibilities. So I'd like the OMT team, together with the task team, to develop the roadmap. That's number one. And then also to assign those that are responsible for the various actions with a timeline, so that we have a kind of a matrix where we would monitor as we go on in a meeting like this. And we can, actually I've sent a message saying that, okay, fine, it's promulgated, but when is it going to be, when is this going to be, when are the results going to be reflected in the salaries of staff? So hopefully we will get a response, and we will transmit that response to the staff association and to the staff in general. Going back now to, I think, like you said, we close on this thing unless there is a burning question. But even if there is a burning question, I think, the most important thing is we cannot resolve everything today. Please be in touch with the staff association and also the OMT team, and you can pose your questions, and you'll be able to get feedback from them. Okay? If that is okay, then we proceed to the second point on the agenda. Yeah, it's just going to be very okay. So the second point on the agenda was the UN reform, right? Right?
Yeah, it's UN reform. After that, we will still go back to staff issues. We have an update on the task force, which is facilitating the establishment of the Federation of the UN Staff Union Association. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the UN reform, as you might know, we had a global resident coordinators meeting in New York for a full 1 week. And we had the opportunity of interacting with member states. We had the opportunity of interacting with the Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General. And we had the opportunity of also interacting with the administrator of the UNDP as the current host of the MRC functions. I would not bore you with many things that have been said and done, but maybe we can concentrate on things that are really meaningful to you and that would affect you or impact on your work, which is the UN development system. There are three big reform agenda of the Secretary General, and this is just one of them. So the first one is the peace and security, and there are so many things that are happening in that field. And then there is the management, where the Secretary General is reforming actually the whole management system in the Secretariat to make it effective, efficient, and responsive to the clients, including us. But the most important is the UN development system and the reform that he has introduced. The one that is very important for you to know is effective 1st January. I'm going to July, 6 months later. But 1st January 2019, the resident coordinator function will be delinked from the UNDP system. So the resident coordinator office would be a neutral entity coordinating all the activities of the UN in countries. Therefore, it will no more depend on UNDP, and the resident coordinator would just be the head of the United Nations and UN resident coordinator, and not the UNDP resident representative. You might be asking what's going to happen to the UNDP. UNDP is in the midst of recruiting representatives, 192 representatives. But in the interim, and that is from January to March, April, maybe May, the deputy resident representatives, and in places where there are country directors, they would assume the responsibility of resident representative functions. And they would be called resident representative AI. And then from April, May, there will be the posting and of an accredited resident representative of UNDP. And it will be like any other agencies, like the UNICEF, UNICEF, or whatever, independent of the resident coordinator's office. The Secretary General feels that the resident coordinator should be empowered and be seen at a higher level, and as such, the coordination office would have the adequate or commensurate capacity to be able to coordinate, to lead, to monitor and evaluate, and to report to the Secretary General on the activities of the UN system. The resident coordinator will no longer report to the administrator of the UNDP, but directly to the Secretary General through the Deputy Secretary General. So our link will be through the DSG. In his address to the staff and to the member states where we were, the Secretary General said that on a regular basis, he would be calling at least one RC a day. So he has 365 days, and we are 193. So I think we'll have a chance of being called at least once by the Secretary General, and we will have the opportunity to report. But when occasions arise, he will be calling us, and we will have to respond. But we will be reporting really directly on a regular basis with the DSG and her office. And the DSG office will have its office, which is called the DSGO, development, the DSGO, SDGO, the office, which used to be the DOCO, and the DOCO would be, actually laid at an ASG level. And DOCO would have, what do they call it, DSGO, right? Or something, anyway, SDGO, yeah. And this SDGO would have a regional offices led by a D2. And this is how we would be reporting. So we would be completely distinct from the UNDP, as we used to be before. I mean, my boss was the administrator, but now it won't be the administrator, but the DSG. So this is what is going to happen. The Secretary General insisted, and he was emphatic to all the principals who were there, and he said he does not want to see, fragmented activities or activities that are, standalone. He would really like us to work within the framework of the UNDA, or in our case, the SCF. And he would like us to report based on the results that are stipulated in the SAF, which we are doing in a way, except that, the coordination is just more emphatically, addressed in the new reform, that we have to work as one. Delivering as one is not just a slogan, but really a reality starting from today, or starting from the day we started, in 2018, 2017, when he came to power. So this is what it is, and what we are doing. Luckily for me, we have got a UN country team that is really solid, that works together. We are like, a team. We work as a team. Sometimes we have our issues, but it's not a big issue like any other countries that face bigger issues in terms of competition and others. We have much more challenge as we go forward, because South Africa being a middle-income country, our resources are limited. From the Regional Coordinator's Office, there is money that comes directly from the trust fund to pay the salaries of what they call 232. From the UNDP, we're going to take, the salaries of the incumbents that are there, which is the executive secretary and the driver. Then there will be 3 local national officers, on substantive issues. And then there will be other 2 additional substantive positions that will be open starting from July. But the 2-3, meaning the 2 and the 3, will be given to us starting from January. In terms of the program, as you know, I've been advocating there. I'm saying that, listen, we need resources, we need our agencies to have some resources to be doing meaningful work, because, the work and the challenge in South Africa is as big and daunting as it is elsewhere in the least developing country. We need to address the inequality, we need to address the unemployment issue, we need to address, the poverty issue, and these are all impacting South Africa. We are not spared from all these ills, and actually, working in South Africa to me is although we have the institutions and systems, and we have the civil society organization, and we have the private sector, it's really more daunting than elsewhere. So I've been making the case, and luckily and hopefully some of the principals are saying that they are going to use the other windows apart from the core resources or the voluntary contributions to help us, in really doing our work efficiently, effectively, and impactful, in a very impactful manner. Hopefully this would happen starting from January. I'm sure in your heads you're going to say, what happens to my job? From where I sit, and if we do it properly, and if we are together, and if we work together as one, I don't think we would shed any one of you, but actually add some more, So it's a matter of how we organize ourselves and on how we manage the whole change or reform in South Africa. So I think I will just stop here and maybe, just let you ask some questions. I know that Sanjay, just came from Addis Ababa, and they were just discussing nothing but that, and others also were going to their headquarters. We've been given information from all directions, and we will be all ready to answer questions. But one thing that you have to know is that, listen, we will be doing our job, and I don't think this whole reform will impact on the jobs of staff members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, RC. The RC will be leaving soon. She has an engagement in Joburg in about 1.5 hours, so she will be leaving anytime soon with some of the UN staff members. But this town hall meeting is going to continue, so don't leave, stay where you are. We will move on to the next item on the agenda.
I just want to make one announcement. The Deputy Secretary General is invited by Global Citizen to be one of their key speakers and a guest. So she is coming and she will be here 3rd of November and will be leaving, from what we know, on the 3rd of December. So we will try, if you can meet with her, if you see what is happening in this country. I mean, her calendar is just, one thing after the other. So, but in any case, I just want you to know that she will be around. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another comment on UN reforms.
Yes, thank you, RC. This is from this side of the table. So you mentioned earlier about the dismantling of UNDP from the RC setup. Now, as UNDP will be a resident representative, would there be cases where one UNDP resident representative would be regional like the other agencies, or they would be represented in every country like the RC?
We'll take one more question for the RC on UN reforms. No questions.
So I am supposed to take the last item. And I want to assure you, colleagues, that I'm not going to be long on this one. And I'm glad, RC, you could spare just 2 minutes. Because I want to start with a book that uses a very strong metaphoric language. And this is a book written by Professor Susan Maud Stayman, who once was a professor at Wits. Now, she actually uses this metaphoric language about bullies and victims. And I'll tell you the title later. I'm not a fan of the title. I mean, it's using a very strong language that I don't agree with. But she refers to bullies at work as hyenas. The hyena that you find in the jungle. And she says hyenas are everywhere. They come in different forms, shapes, and sizes. Hyenas come in a form of a colleague sitting next to you. Hyenas come as supervisors. They come as directors. They also come in individuals, or they come as groups, like staff associations. She says they sometimes do not realize that they are hyenas, or they have these characteristics. But the victims will always recognize the hyena because of the pain that the hyena is actually causing to them. I thought all the information that was overwhelming we were receiving in terms of frustrations, in terms of how hurting the staff, and hearing all this, I thought this book is actually one of the best books for people to read, because the title of the book, and you'll excuse me because I indicated that I don't like this title. I open quote, it's "Don't take shit from hyenas in the workplace. Reclaim your dignity. Be hyena-wise." Now I wanted to use this as a preamble for the update in terms of the Federation. And I want to appreciate the support that we have been getting from the RC's office. That we don't take for granted. If I were to read what I have in my notebook in terms of the support and the commitments that have been made by the RC, it's tremendous. You would believe in South African language that I have been captured, not here. In terms of the updates, colleagues, remember the Federation is a group a little higher than the staff associations. We're not replacing the staff associations. I remember Busisiwe Msimang was here, the previous town hall, and she explained this, so I will not repeat it. But I just want to highlight a few objectives of the Federation. One, it is there to defend and promote legitimate interests of staff and all staff. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you are a hyena or a victim. It's also to represent its members at all agencies, including negotiations and consultations. So the consultations that we've been through, the negotiations, sometimes it's painful, it comes across as disrespect. No, it is not. It is the process of negotiation. And this will happen from time and again. It is also to ensure mutual assistance between the members. It is also to promote social, cultural, and economic interests. And we all know, as the UN family, there's diversity. And this has to have a framework to make sure that we address it. And finally, it is to ensure that there is coordination at agency level. So what we have done, we have just finalized the constitution for the Federation, which is supposed to be signed by all the staff associations. And once that process is done, I am aware that the RC referred to me as the future president of the Federation. I do want to reiterate that the 5 executive members, including the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and an additional member, they have to be elected by staff. So it's a leadership role that we will then have to conduct elections in the next couple of weeks. And we will request the UNCT colleagues to support this process, because we definitely need to make sure that it is done thoroughly and with fairness as well. And I am not sure, Simba, because I'm done with the update. I don't know whether I should hand over to you so that you can close the meeting.
Any other burning questions? Somebody with a really burning question. If not, thank you very much for coming, and see you at the next town hall meeting. Thank you.